Chapter 19. Man Yun. The next day, Xiao Yan stood on top of a tall hill, looking at the endless dense forest in the distance. He sighed in his heart. Ever since he arrived in Forest Domain, he had been rushing towards Star Moon Spirit Domain for almost 3 months. He still hadn't walked out of this huge forest. Xiao Yan couldn't help but have a deeper understanding of the boundless world. This holy rank trial is actually so terrifying. Just this long journey alone will eliminate half of the trial participant. Xiao Yan sighed. He rested for a while before moving again. After another 2 days of traveling, Xiao Yan was just about to sit down on a green rock and rest for a while when he was suddenly attracted by the 2 powerful auras that suddenly erupted not far ahead of him. How is this possible? There are actually other people here, and their strength is also so strong. They are almost at the intermediate 8-star realm. Xiao Yan's face was full of shock. The other aura seems to be Devil Beast. It should also have the strength of intermediate 8-star. Xiao Yan licked his lips and thought for a while. He lowered his aura to the lowest level and rushed over with light footsteps. He nimbly jumped onto a huge tree and pushed aside the thick branches and leaves. Xiao Yan looked down and saw a bare-chested man with a sturdy body holding a huge wolf-tooth club. Opposite the man was a man-tall lion with a fierce look in its eyes. It stared at the man with its bell-sized eyes, and the sound of saliva being swallowed could be heard from its throat. In the next moment, the cracking lion let out a low roar. It suddenly pounced on the man. As the man had his back to Xiao Yan could not see the latter's expression clearly. However, the moment before the lion pounced on him, the man's body swayed slightly, and he easily dodged it. Before the lion could launch its second attack, the man turned his body sideways. Xiao Yan also saw the man's face clearly at this moment. The man had a face that was completely different from his sturdy physique. He was very delicate and pretty. His eyes were long and narrow, giving people a cold feeling. The man behind him smiled slightly and said in a cold voice, "It's just a middle-stage 8-star Devil Beast, how dare you have designs on me?" With a sneer, the man waved his wolf-tooth club and charged at Lion Lai Shi, who opened his mouth wide and spat out a mouthful of blood. Lion Lai Shi roared angrily and was about to pounce on him when the man who had already rushed in front of Lion Lai Shi suddenly let out a cold snort. Xiao Yan saw a red light suddenly shoot out from the man's body, and it disappeared in a flash. At the same time, a powerful aura burst out from the man's body, and then quickly disappeared. It was so fast that Xiao Yan even suspected that it was an illusion. When the light appeared, a bone-cracking sound could be heard. Then, the man appeared in front of the Devil Beast. The mace in his hand was stained with traces of blood. Behind him, the lion howled in pain. Suddenly, the light in its eyes faded and it fell heavily to the ground. He had defeated a Devil Beast that was also at the intermediate 8-star realm with a single strike. Xiao Yan could not help but be shocked. Just who was this person? He was actually so powerful. Just as Xiao Yan was surprised, the man who had lowered his head suddenly said, "Friend on the tree." Yes. Xiao Yan felt bad. He had already suppressed his ki to a very low level. He didn't expect to be discovered by the man. He jumped down from the tree and forced a smile at the man. He said respectfully, "I, Xiao Yan, just passed by and saw that my brother had extraordinary skills. I stopped to watch. I mean no harm." The man smiled and looked at Xiao Yan carefully with his long and narrow eyes. He held the mace in his arms and said, "I didn't expect to see humans in such a desolate and remote place." Hee. Hearing the man's laughter, Xiao Yan let out an unnoticeable sigh of relief. Luckily, this muscular man wasn't someone who would start a fight without saying a word. "I am Man Yun." As he observed Xiao Yan, a trace of shock flashed across the man's eyes. If it wasn't for the fact that he had entered a frenzied state when he killed the lion, he wouldn't have been able to detect this black-clothed man. While thinking, Man Yun began to estimate Xiao Yan's strength in his heart. Man Yun. Xiao Yan's expression changed as he recalled the bronze warship from that night. He could not help but ask, could it be that brother man is from the barbarian domain? Minian's eyebrows twitched when he heard this. A painful look flashed across his long and narrow eyes. He nodded with a calm expression and said, "That's right. The trial in the barbarian domain has always been in the forest domain. I am the trial participant this time around." Man Yun did not hide anything. His expression was not as cold as before. He looked at Xiao Yan, who looked like a human. A vague image of a kind girl appeared in Menian's mind. Perhaps it was because he was the same kind of person as the girl. When Man Yun spoke to Xiao Yan, there was an unnoticeable smile on his face. Mr. Xiao dared to venture into the forest domain alone. I'm sure he isn't an ordinary person. Man Yun raised his eyelids. Man Yun smiled and said. Xiao Yan smiled bitterly and shook his head after hearing Menian's words. He told Man Yun about the holy rank trial. Man Yun could not help but feel relieved when he heard this. He frowned and said, these 3 requests. They are indeed abnormal. They are even more difficult than our trials. Xiao Yan subconsciously said, your trial is. Xiao Yan felt bad the moment he said that. Why did he ask such a question? Menian's expression did not change. He said 2 words plainly, we are from the same race, killing each other. Xiao Yan was shocked. He looked around and said, there are trial participants from the barbarian domain here. Man Yun nodded and said, that's right. Every time our barbarian domain trials, we believe in the survival of the fittest. Every child from the barbarian domain who has reached the 6-star Do sovereign realm must participate in the trials in the forest domain. Every 2 of them will be assigned to the same region to complete the trial. Only one of them can live. Hearing Menian's tone, there was a hint of resentment. Xiao Yan did not know what to say. Although the trial in the barbarian region was cruel, according to the introduction of the Great World, every person in the barbarian region had a strong physique. A top warrior must have something to do with this sort of trial. Besides this, we also need to kill a devil beast. Only by personally obtaining its monster core can the trial be considered complete. Xiao Yan looked at Man Yun. He said, this shouldn't be too difficult, right? Based on Brother Man's strength just now, obtaining a monster core isn't easy. As he spoke, Xiao Yan recalled the lightning technique Man Yun used to kill the lion. With a bitter smile, Man Yun glanced at the lion on the ground. He said, if I need this kind of monster core, I can get more than 10 in a day. But what we need in the trial is spirit cores from spirit beasts. Spirit cores. When Xiao Yan heard this, he immediately became somewhat speechless. Even the weakest of spirit beasts is several times stronger than a 9-star. Do-di. It was comparable to the realm of a human sovereign. With Menian's strength of intermediate 8 stars, it was indeed somewhat difficult. Furthermore, after we obtain the spirit core, the elders will use the secret arts to transfer the energy within the spirit core into our bodies. This is the reason why the people of the barbarian domain are far stronger than the others. Therefore, the better the spirit core you obtain for the first time, the more beneficial it will be for your future growth. Xiao Yan nodded as if he had experienced the same thing. This was his usual style. It was something useful to him. He would do his best to get the best, just like the holy rank trial this time. Then, is there another person in this region, Brother Man? Xiao Yan suddenly said. After saying this, Xiao Yan immediately felt Menian's face turn extremely cold. The hand that held the mace also began to tremble. After a while, Man Yun let out a long breath. The hatred in his eyes quickly retreated and said, that bastard. I will definitely kill him. Oh right, Mr. Xiao, can you do me a favor? Man Yun suddenly asked. Xiao Yan was startled. He looked into Menian's eyes, which were filled with hope. As if he had thought of something, he nodded slightly and said, Man Yun, please speak. Man Yun was delighted. He said, I have already observed a spirit beast, but it is still a little difficult for me to kill it alone. Mr. Xiao, can you help me? Xiao Yan asked suspiciously, can someone help me during the trial? Man Yun smiled. This kind of trial not only tests strength, but also strength. I was able to meet Mr. Xiao in this vast forest. This can be considered a kind of luck. Xiao Yan pondered for a moment and said, what level is that spirit beast? It's a low-level spirit beast. Its strength is roughly equivalent to 3 human Grand Emperors. Xiao Yan was instantly stunned. It had reached the peak of the 9 stars of the Combat Emperor realm. The Origin Monarch crystal transformed into the Tao and advanced a step further. He was a sovereign. At the level of a sovereign, what he absorbed was no longer ordinary Origin Monarch Ki. Instead, the Origin Monarch Ki contained an even purer and more powerful energy. When the energy he absorbed condensed into one stream within his body, his strength would increase exponentially, and after 10 streams were condensed, When the 10 parts of the origin monarch key were condensed into one part, the strength of the origin monarch key would advance to a higher level. As for the 3 spirit beasts with the strength of emperors, they were much stronger than the 9-star Dodi devil beasts. As soon as the words left his mouth, Man Yun hurriedly said, that 3 emperor warrior spirit beasts seem to have suffered some injuries. At most, they can only use half of their strength. Hearing this, Xiao Yan felt a little relieved. Facing Menian's hopeful gaze, Xiao Yan also smiled. Okay. 2 figures were moving quickly in the dense forest. After running for a while, Xiao Yan suddenly said, Brother man. I have read some books that said that there is a northern barbarian palace in the barbarian region. What does the northern barbarian king's mansion mean? Man Yun was startled. After a while, he slowly said, the barbarian domain. Although it is not as vast and boundless as the forest domain, it is an extremely mysterious and bloody place. During the ancient times, after the legendary barbarian god who created the barbarian domain disappeared, the 4 generals of the barbarian god ruled the barbarian domain on behalf of the barbarian god. For some reason, the barbarian region was divided into the 4 royal residences of the north, south, east, and west. The 4 great kings' residences completely ruled the barbarian region, and I am a member of the northern barbarian imperial residence. When he mentioned the last 4 words, Menian's face actually carried a trace of an undetectable coldness. When Xiao Yan heard Menian's words, he couldn't suppress the shock in his heart. Opening up the barbarian domain, how powerful was this kind of strength? God of Barbarian. Xiao Yan silently remembered this name. Oh right, brother man, I occasionally saw a huge black bird that blotted out the sun flying across the sky. That huge bird is... Xiao Yan's mind suddenly moved as he asked. Man Yun, who was flying at a fast speed, heard this and pondered for a moment before saying, I heard from the elder that the huge bird is one of the most powerful existences in the forest domain. It is called the Azure Ancient Profound Bird. Its strength is inestimable. It is said that it is one of the guardians of the forest domain. Guardians. Xiao Yan was shocked. He had never seen such a name in the great world. Man Yun thought for a moment and said, Mr. Xiao, you don't know. There were a total of 10 regions in this great world. Each region was not as simple as a region. There are a lot of things that we can't understand now. Xiao Yan understood what Man Yun meant when he heard Menian's ambiguous words. He nodded and did not say anything. This world was even more interesting than he had imagined. Chapter end.